Hello and welcome to the latest from Hearts Standard. My name is Joel Sked. I am joined by James Kearney, and from now on, this video and the ones down the line will be sponsored by MPH Group for all your plumbing, heating, kitchen, and bathroom needs. You can see the bit in the ticker down the bottom. So that's why we started 10 minutes late, because we're trying to figure out how to add this, etc., etc. But we're here to discuss Heart of Midlothian's upcoming Scottish Cup clash with Greenock Morton on Monday evening in the Scottish Cup quarter-final. It's live on BBC. There's set to be a big crowd at Capello, despite it being a Monday evening. But there is a lot of eyes on the tie, with Morton having been in really good form of late, Hearts having been in really good form of late, Morton having put Motherwell out of the cup in the last round live on TV. That one was Friday. This one is set to be, I would imagine, equally tense and tight affair, because, as we'll come on to talk about, Morton are very, very stubborn, obdurate, difficult, uncomfortable opposition to face. So before we dive into the weeds and we look at it from a Hearts perspective, and we look at what we can expect from Morton on Monday night, have you seen Morton much this season in your Partick Thistle supporting, with your Partick Thistle support hat on?
Not really, to be honest. I don't think I've actually been to. That's not true. Sorry, I've been to one game this season. I've been to one. So I've not had a chance to see them much. I'll try and keep up to date with the highlights and stuff like that. But I think the thing that you get from a Dougie, I've certainly seen Dougie Imrie's Morton a fair few times over the last couple of seasons, and the thing you know is that you're always going to be in for a fight. It's always a really tough physical battle. They're big players. They really demands a lot from them as well in terms of getting around the pitch and really kind of using that physicality, making their presence felt. And it's never an easy game, I don't think. I think Motherwell found that out pretty sharpish when they went along to Capello and got papped out the cup. And they're in an interesting kind of run at the moment, though, because like you say, yeah, they were on that absolutely incredible run where they went from late November until last weekend without getting beat. It was 15 games, I think it was, 5 draws in there, but
16 games,
wins, 16
11 wins and 5 draws.
Which is obviously just absolutely sensational form. They're one of the form teams in Scotland based on that. But then if you look at the last 5 games, they've really struggled, and they've I think they've only scored. I think there's been 4 games where they've not failed to score whatsoever. They've lost their last 2 games, both one on Tuesday night, one on Saturday as well. So they're maybe hitting the rocks a little bit, and that unbelievable run of form that they have been on, it seems to have slowed down a bit, and I'm sure we're going to talk about the reasons why that is. There's one or two pretty obvious ones, but so I think that this is, while it's never an easy game against Morton, while they will make life uncomfortable for you, make life difficult, it's maybe not the worst timing to be playing Morton, given that we also what happened to Motherwell when they went there. That was only a few weeks ago, whereas now they're slightly different beast, I think.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head, and like you said, we will come to talk about more in depth on Morton, and I would be still concerned or wary of the threat they'll pose on Monday night. But you're right. If it was facing them a few weeks ago, you're a bit more apprehensive of that challenge that they will pose. But firstly, we'll talk about Heart of Midlothian. We've obviously been to the press conference today, spoke to Stephen Naismith and George Grant, so that stuff from there will be coming out over the next couple of days. And we've also got on the site injury update that you put up there, James, and Hearts will miss 6. We'll be missing 6 players, so obviously the kind of Frankie Kent and Craig Halkett will be big miss, because, like you said, the physicality of Morton, although there's potentially a player missing from Morton, which helps Hearts in that instance. Then you have Barry Mackay, Liam Boyce, longer term injuries, and the other 2 are more recent: Yutaro Oda and Callum Newhoff. Stephen Naismith confirmed that Neuenhoff will be out for a few weeks, and Oda has struggles as well. So it does limit the options that Naismith has within the squad. So straight off the bat, what do you think he'll do personnel-wise?
Well, it's interesting because, like, I guess one of the things we should say as well is that Kenneth Vargas was back training.
Sorry, I left out the positive.
Yeah, so he is back training, so you imagine he's available. And the other one as well was Scott Fraser, who hasn't been training the last couple of days, I don't think. But Naismith said it was nothing to be concerned about. He will be training on Sunday ahead of the game on Monday. So you'd imagine he's probably going to be in the squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously one or two areas where an extra body wouldn't hurt. Certainly, you look at central defence in particular, where, like you say, when you're up against a kind of physical, powerful Morton team, you'd really want someone like Frankie Kent or Craig Halkett in there, because they're just so solid, and they've got that physicality and that edge to their game, and that's fine. Well, obviously, we've seen at times this season Kai Rose can get into bother if he's up against a big physical striker. We've also seen that, but then we saw Toby Sibbitt coming back in against Celtic, obviously, and he was fantastic as well. So, in terms of the shape, I'm not entirely sure what Naismith's going to go for. I think it's probably more likely to be a back four, like probably a 4-3-3 or something like that, I would imagine. But as the game against Celtic showed, like, there's still options there to go to that back three if he thinks it's what's needed. It'll be interesting to see whether or not Kingsley plays as well. I think particularly if there is a back four where somebody has to drop out, where I think on current form, you'd have to have him in the squad. But obviously we did see him take that knock against Celtic as well. And, maybe he might need a rest for a game, in which case it might well be a centre back pairing of Sibbick and Rose, which doesn't fill you with confidence, which is unfair because they were both excellent on Sunday there. They were both absolutely brilliant.
I know exactly what you mean, though.
But you know what I mean? It's just like, you could see that getting a bit hairy. But I think elsewhere in the park, it's largely fine. I think, particularly the front three, I think would pretty much pick itself. Particularly with Oda being out, you'd imagine it'd be a front three of Forrest, Shankland and Vargas.
Yeah.
And then in the midfield, kind of like we discussed yesterday when we talked about Neuenhoff's injury, there are lots of options in there. There's yes, obviously Neuenhoff is a loss. Of course he is. In current form, he's been absolutely fantastic recently. But similarly, there's still plenty of players who can play in that position who, again, probably deserve a chance. Guys like Cammy Devon, guys like Macaulay Tate, guys like Aidan Denham, who you could see any of them coming in and you wouldn't have many concerns over them, I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think it'll be a back four. One thing going in Kingsley's favour is it's been a week. He's been walking around fine, and just on the Frankie Kent, what I should have said was at Oriam today. So last week when we were at Oriam, he was on crutches and a knee brace. That was precautionary. He's out of both of them. He was walking around, seemed to be walking around fine. As was Kingsley again. He had a knock. I think, especially if it's most of it's a four, I think Naismith will want his experience in there. I think he might be one of the few players to have played at Capello. I'm just trying to think. He came in at the championship season. I don't know if he got injured towards the end of that campaign. He might have, but we played twice there. So I think I should double check the London Hearts. But certainly he is someone you trust with that experience. And obviously going back to his Falkirk days as well. So I do think it's a game where you just get both the game, how Morton will kind of set up for it, the environment, with a sold out crowd, a big crowd for Capello and Capello on the pitch that everyone comes into it. I think you just go for guys who kind of tried and trusted, and you go there to try and dominate, also just win the game and win your battles as well. I do think it'll be a back four, and I think you do see Kingsley in there, Cochrane in there. Sibbick Rose is an interesting one because we've seen City Kingsley play as a right-sided centre back and without few issues, and then it's a big choice between Lembikisa and Atkinson. I think that's probably one of the biggest question marks, because I look at the mid before we come into that. I look at the midfield three as being probably Grant, Benny, and Devlin.
Probably, yeah. But again, I wouldn't be surprised to see Denham maybe start. Maybe I think Tate maybe a wee bit slight, maybe a little bit kind of physically lightweight for this one, just because you're up against guys like Robbie Crawford, for instance. Just big, solid, really
Alan Power,
exactly. Big lumps in midfield where those like smaller players can sometimes they can kind of dance around them. It's great, but I think particularly early on in the game as well, you'd expect Morton to come out quite hard and get stuck in and all the rest of it. I think Denham is probably more up to the task. I think so. Again, I think you're probably right with that midfield three, but wouldn't be the biggest surprise in the world, I don't think, to see Denham maybe pop in as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I would just with Devlin obviously getting probably more minutes than Denham recently. That's went for there. You're right. Front three, I think picks itself. I think it has to. There's not many more options to move around in that in that area. Who would you play at right back, Atkinson or Lembikisa?
I think it's got to be Lembikisa just now. I mean, he was excellent on Sunday, and then obviously Atkinson in the previous two games was poor. So I think it's got to be Lembikisa just on current form. I know you're a bit wary of Lembikisa in a back four. I know you've got reservations about that, but no, I think he could absolutely do it. Yeah.
Yeah, if Hearts are going to have a lot of the ball, then absolutely fine with that. And he adds increased pace and directness to the team, which is always a positive. And I think we assume that Craig Gordon is going to be between the sticks. I know there's not been anything. Neither Naismith or Gordon said it. There's not been any discussion or confirmation that that there's a cup goalkeeper and a league goalkeeper. But it does seem, just going past evidence, i.e. the Spartans game and the Adrianans, is that Craig Gordon will be between the sticks. Now, in terms of Greenock Morton, speaking, listening to their fans, I think they're coming into it with not as much expectation because of the recent results and the fact that they don't have a massive squad. That's a big issue with Greenock Morton, and it has been for a couple of years that they've gone with a much smaller squad, which is just because of their budget. So they've looked to bring in quality. And Doug Emery has talked a lot about the fact that the team that they'll put out, or the squad that he's built, has got a lot of Premiership experience or have guys who have played in the Premiership. So you look at Jack Baird, centre back, and then the main one will be Alan Power. You refer to him as a big lump. I rail against any suggestion that Alan Power is a big lump. I think he is a fantastic player. I thought he was brilliant at Kelly, and he was yes, he can do the dirty side, the physical side, but I thought he was a really, really good player. And probably the reason he's playing in the Championship rather than the Premiership is because maybe the pace isn't quite there. But I think what we can expect from Greenock Morton is that they will make it very, very difficult for Hearts, even if they're missing key players. And I think the big one that they could be missing is George Oakley. Yeah. And he's former Hamilton striker again, Premiership experience. I'm sure I read a stat that they've not won when he's not played and he's missed. I'm just looking at the two more recent defeats. The last three games which they haven't won, he's missed a game, and he played against Air Dragonians. Their last win, he scored in a 2-1 win, and they got replaced towards the end of the game, and he's not played, not featured since. And it's meant that they've had to play Robbie Muirhead in attack. Hearts fans will be familiar with Robbie Muirhead. Spent some time with the club under Robbie Neilson and Ian Cathro. Scored a couple of goals against Rangers. However, he's a completely different proposition in attack to George Oakley. George Oakley is that focal point. He will be... he will rough up defenders. He'll be the physical side. That's not Robbie Muirhead's game. And it probably just takes away from Morton in that final third.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's the main reason for the kind of downturn in form over the last few games is the fact that they don't have Oakley there. I mean, to be fair, I think Muirhead's actually the top scorer this season at Morton. I think Muirhead's just sneaked ahead of him on goals scored, but
yeah, he's done. I think you have to give Dougie Emery loads of credit for kind of revitalising Muirhead's career, because he just seemed to be kind of drifting, and then he's found a place at Morton where he's been one of the more dangerous championship attackers.
Yeah, he's a strange player, and he strikes me as a kind of player that seems to relish big games. And I think that he's also definitely a player who's capable of spectacular as well. He scored some absolutely crazy goals for Morton down the years. There's that one he got in a playoff game as well, when it was like a chest and volley from like 40 yards out or something that went straight into the top corner. It was absolutely unbelievable. So he has got that. He is capable of kind of digging something out of nothing and pulling off something spectacular. But you're right. I think he misses playing off of Oakley. I think Oakley's just been such an important player for Morton. I mean, he was the championship player of the month for January. And like you say, he's just been that focal point in attack that when you take him out of the team, all of a sudden it looks an awful lot more blunt, I think. It's not like, yeah, they're definitely a weaker side without him in it. Because you look at the other options they've got there, like guys like maybe Jai Katongo, where he has the odd game here and there, where he looks all right, but I think that he's very hot and cold and quite inconsistent. I don't think he can really be relied upon. And I just think that if Oakley does manage to get fit for this game, and if he is playing, then Morton will be a completely different animal. But without him, they lose a bit of that edge in the final third.
Yeah, massively, and that's where I think that's where they get a lot of joy, and he allows them that. I think there's been a perception, or opposition teams just see Morton as long ball. I don't like. I don't see anything wrong with being long ball team, but I would describe Morton more as being direct, and I think that's where to get the ball into him then allows them to play. Because if you actually look at the other players like Jai Katongo, Robbie Crawford, Cameron Blues, Alan Power, Grant Gillespie, that's kind of their midfield or forwards. They're not big guys. They're all quite medium-sized, squat, and then once they're in that final third, that's when they begin to play. And I'd probably compare it a wee bit like Livingston under Martindale when they had Dykes, is that they know their strengths. Rather than muck around with the ball in their defensive third or midfield third, they get the ball into dangerous areas, make it difficult for teams, and then play when they're up there. And I was looking at some of the stats, and they've played the most long balls or long passes in the championship. And then on the flip side, but they get so they get the ball in the final third. They have a lot of shots, third most in the championship. And then on the flip side, we've talked about it, they make it very uncomfortable for teams, and they are one of the most intense pressers, or the most intense pressers of the championship. But a couple of stats that really stood out to me: the most fouls and it's yellow cards. They've had 82 yellow cards in the championship. The next highest figure is Queen's Park on 53. So they are competitive, and I think that's the big thing, is that Hearts will want to control the game, but Morton will do everything in their power to stop Hearts from doing so or put them off the rhythm. And I think that's where it's going to be key for Hearts in the midfield to win that battle first, to then be able to play and put Morton on the front foot. And that becomes so much more, it's so much easier to do when Morton don't have an out ball in George Oakley.
No, absolutely. And I think you're right in terms of when you talk about the way they like the press, and the way that they're not exactly shy about lunging in and all the rest of it. They're disruptive. And I think we know that Naismith likes control. He likes to see spells of possession where Hearts are just moving it around, just getting control of the ball, trying to create some spaces in other areas of the park. And I think if you try and play that way against Morton, if you don't play the ball quick enough, if you dawdle on it a bit, like they will go in and hard on you, and you might win a free kick, you might even rob the ball off you, but the whole point is it disrupts the rhythm, though. It just, it stops something that would normally be a move that maybe has like 8 or 9 or maybe 10 passes in it, all of a sudden gets snuffed out at past 3 or past 4, and little things like that can just really stop you from kind of gaining momentum. So yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that will be that's definitely something that Hearts have got to be wary of on Monday. But like you say, there is that big plus, hopefully, that Oakley's not going to be there. And, again, I think at that point, they can get a little bit one-dimensional in attack. And I think that's been, again, I've not seen the last few games, so I can't comment, but I would imagine that's been a big part of the problem. Just from kind of seeing what Morton fans are saying online and looking at match reports and stuff like that, it seems to, like, and I think with Muirhead, he's just not got that same sort of physical presence. Like, he's not a wee guy by any stretch. He's a big guy, but he's just not got that kind of same sort of level of physicality as someone like Oakley. And I think Morton do suffer for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is the same with every single game, but if Hearts get an early goal, then that gives them that platform to be right. Okay, we are in full control now. Whereas when it's 0-0 and Morton are just sitting in and making it difficult, there's always that tension which can feed into not just feeding the away crowd, but get the home crowd even more on side, because they're going to be up for it. It's they've sold a lot of tickets. I think there's very few left, and it's going to be one of those grounds where very much on top of the players, and it can be quite intimidating. That being said, the players in the Hearts team should be fine with it because they've played in big games, they've played in tense atmospheres, and all that. Just a Morton fan replied to me on Twitter when I just retweeted this when we're promoting this video. It's like, what can Hearts expect from Morton? And his answer was, not much. Shankland is 18-1 for a hat-trick. He should be half that at most. So we've just been talking about Morton, and they've just been slapped down by one of their own fans. So yeah, it's moving it around to the actual game. It's a great chance for Hearts to get into the semi-final, another semi-final this season, and like looking ahead and without wanting to tempt fate, but there'll be eyes on getting to a semi-final and putting that League Cup defeat to Rangers to the side and kind of rectifying the performance there, because that was one of the low points, and certainly of the season, I think, just in terms of performance and how fans were feeling and the direction, how everyone felt about the direction of the team. It's obviously changed days from there, but I mean, you couldn't ask for much better run from the fourth round to the potential semi-final in League Two side and then 2 Championship sides.
No, absolutely, yeah. I mean, I guess the one thing you could say is, like, if it was at home, it'd be a bit nicer. But
100%.
Obviously, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's, again, without tempting fate here. There are more difficult opponents in the tie that Hearts could have got. I'm sure even Morton fans would agree with that. So yeah, it is a great opportunity, and like you say, if Hearts can get over this, can get through Monday night, can get into the semi-final, at that point, then I think fans will rightly respect a reaction and an improvement from the League Cup semi-final, because like you say, it was a really disappointing afternoon, and it wasn't because Hearts lost, it was the manner of the defeat. It was the fact that, by the time it was all said and done, they hadn't really laid much of a glove on Rangers, and that was, I think that certainly what we've seen from Naismith during his time at Hearts so far is that he tends to learn from these things, and he tends to he doesn't always make the same mistakes again. And I think that if Hearts were able to get to a semi-final, it's another opportunity for him to show, right, here's what I've learned from before. And, like you say, it's an opportunity to put it right. And, just apart from anything else as well, like, if you're Hearts manager, semi-finals should be the expectation, I think. Particularly right now at this point in time when Hearts are trying to really establish themselves as the third best team in Scotland, and obviously that takes a couple of years. It's not going to take one season to do that, but if you want to do that, then okay, well, you need, unless you get knocked out by Celtic or Rangers in an earlier round, there's really not much of an excuse not to be reaching at least the semi-finals every season. So again, it'd be another notch on Stephen Naismith's belt, I think, maybe in a second semi-final. But again, it's that way where with the kind of increase in the expectations, that's the way it should be just now, and I think supporters are right to feel that way, particularly when you look at the draws that they have had.
Yeah, I was speaking to a couple of guys in the pub after the game on Sunday, and we were talking. These guys, a few years older, and they were just talking about the wait for trophies, and they were like, we had to wait far too long for 1998 and to celebrate a Hearts trophy. And he's been like, they're kids, they've been able to see 2 or 3 in that time, but since 2012, it's been 12 years since any sort of silverware, but any sort of there's 2 championship titles in there, but as a club like Hearts, you can't really count them too much as in terms of being as success. So I think that's the mentality now, is that 12 years is far too long, and Craig Gordon mentioned that it's been too long, and since 2012, the good I always see as a positive if a team is reaching the latter stages of the cups consistently, and it's not something Hearts have done in my time. There's as a Hearts fan early on, it was like there would have been a period where it was a semi-final here, maybe a final here, but over the last few years, it's been quite consistent in terms of semi-finals and finals. So by just continuing to get there, you're just like, right, if you just keep knocking on the door, it should open, and hopefully you can walk through. In addition, you also have the European factor, and that
exactly
the Hearts getting into the semi-final, it means we've still got some control over teams not winning the cup, i.e. Hibs, Kilmarnock, Aberdeen, Livingston, not winning the cup and taking away that group stage football as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because while obviously we're still wary of saying that third place is all done, because we still remember last season and all the rest of it, it's looking increasingly likely, and it would really sting, wouldn't it, if Hearts were to record some absolutely brilliant points total, the highest points total in years, maybe even finish closer to the Old Firm than they do to the rest, and then to get that Europa League spot taken away, it'd be pretty cruel. So yeah, like you say, it leaves it in Hearts' hands as well, which is another incentive. But to be honest, with competitions though at this stage, do you need an incentive? Are you that fussed about European football? Surely it's just, I've got a chance to play at Hampden, got a chance to play in a semi-final. If that goes well, I've got a chance to play in a final and then maybe win something. And I think if you're a footballer and that doesn't motivate you, then you're in the wrong game.
But there are 2 teams this weekend who I very much hope are knocked out, and I hope to see Kilmarnock and Rangers in the draw on Monday evening, or hopefully Hearts as well. Because like I said, it doesn't bear thinking about anyone, but particularly 2 teams taking that European group stage football away from us. We'll leave it there. Shorter and sweeter today. Just looking ahead to the game on Monday. That will be us until probably Tuesday, when we will review the hopefully 3 win at Capello. Until then, there'll be plenty of stuff going up on the. So I'm just reading Jim's comment here. Livingston winning the cup and us missing out on group stages is the most Hearts thing possible. I would add into that Livingston winning the cup and getting relegated, while also missing out on the group stages is the most Hearts thing possible. But yeah, there'll be plenty of content going up over the next couple of days. We've got a big in-depth piece about Callum Neuenhoff that James has been working on. We spoke to Stephen Naismith about him and his progression, his development. There will be an interview with Dougie Imrie, Morton manager. I caught up with him yesterday to look ahead of the game. So he talks about that, what Hearts can expect, why he wishes he played for Hearts during his career, and there'll just be the usual press conference content as well. So Stephen Naismith and George Grant speaking, and that'll be released over the next few days as well. You can subscribe for as little as £4 for 4 months, and there's another offer there, I keep forgetting what it is. And anything else, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow us on all the socials. But until the start of next week, I hope everyone has a good weekend, including yourself, James. But until then, goodbye.
Bye.